The ultimatum. Commander Elisa Reyes stood ramrod straight at the edge of the human delegation, her military uniform a stark contrast to the flowing diplomatic attire worn by her colleagues. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the unified species stretched impossibly high above them, its crystalline walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns no human artist could replicate. Thousands of alien representatives filled the curved seating that encircled the central speaking platform, where Earth's diplomats now stood. Esteemed members of the Assembly, Ambassador Chen pleaded, his amplified voice echoing throughout the chamber. Humanity has overcome our violent past. We have united our planet, ended our territorial conflicts, and stabilized our biosphere. We seek only to learn and contribute to the galactic community. Reyes observed the Assembly's reactions with a soldier's practiced eye. The 7 high counselors sat on elevated platforms, each representing one of the founding species of the Galactic Union. Their physical forms varied wildly, from the insectoid Vesperi to the crystalline Luminites and the 4-armed Quarians. But Reyes recognized their expressions after 20 years of military service. They had already made their decision. The Quarian counselor raised 2 of his 4 hands, silencing Chen. "We have examined Earth's complete historical record," he stated, his translator converting complex harmonic tones into flat, emotionless standard. "No species in the Assembly's archives has devoted as much of its developmental period to warfare as humans. Your entertainment glorifies violence. Your economies were built on conquest, and your technological advances came primarily during periods of conflict." Ambassador Chen started to object, but the Vesperi counselor cut him off with an antenna movement that activated her speaker. "The risk assessment is conclusive. Humans evolved through aggressive competition rather than cooperative symbiosis. This fundamental biological imperative makes you inherently destabilizing to galactic peace." Reyes felt her jaw tighten. The Council had spent 14 days interviewing the Earth delegation, requesting historical records, and subjecting them to psychological evaluations. She had suspected this outcome from the 5th day, when the questions shifted from curious to concerned. Dr. Ishikawa, Earth's lead scientist, stepped forward. "With respect, counselors, our competitive nature has driven innovations that could benefit all species. Our medical technologies can be developed by cooperative species without the accompanying risks," interrupted the Luminite counselor, light pulsing through its crystalline form. "We have seen many species like yours. Those granted early access to interstellar technology invariably attempt territorial expansion within 1 generation." Lieutenant Rivera leaned closer to Reyes. "They're afraid of us," he whispered. "Yes," Reyes replied softly. "And fear makes enemies of potential allies." The High Counselors conferred in private frequencies for several minutes, while Earth's delegation stood awkwardly on the platform. Reyes noticed the pitying glances from some representatives, the wary stares from others. Humanity's reputation had preceded them. The Assembly had been monitoring Earth broadcasts for decades. Finally, the Prime Counselor, a being composed of what appeared to be flowing liquid metal, addressed them. "The decision is unanimous. Earth is classified as a Category 3 civilization, technologically advanced, but culturally unsuitable for integration. You will be permitted to develop within your solar system only. A quarantine boundary will be established beyond the orbit of your outermost planet. Any attempt to breach this boundary will be considered an act of aggression against the Assembly." Ambassador Chen swayed slightly, steadying himself on the podium. "And how long will this quarantine last?" "Until humanity demonstrates fundamental evolutionary change in its aggressive tendencies," replied the metallic counselor. "Based on comparable species, our predictive models suggest no fewer than 50,000 years." A horrified murmur ran through the Earth delegation. 50,000 years, longer than human civilization, had existed. It was a death sentence for humanity's interstellar ambitions. Dr. Ishikawa stepped forward again. "We request permission to present a formal appeal with additional evidence off." "The Council's decision is final," interrupted the Vesperi. "You will be escorted back to your vessel, and return to Earth. Limited technological assistance will be provided to help Earth manage its resource constraints, but no faster-than-light technology, weapons advancements, or unrestricted communication with other species will be permitted. As the assembly session ended, armored security drones surrounded the Earth delegation, guiding them toward the exit. Rice fell into step beside Lieutenant Rivera, her mind already racing through implications. "They're making a mistake, aren't they, Commander?" Rivera whispered, his young face showing the shock Rice had long since learned to hide. "A severe one," Rice replied, keeping her voice low. "They fear our aggression, but they've just ensured it." The delegation was escorted through the sprawling assembly station, passing technology that made Earth's most advanced systems look primitive. Rice noted everything: defense systems, ship designs, the manner in which different species interacted. Information that might one day be useful. As they approached their ship, Ambassador Chen looked defeated, his diplomatic career effectively ended by this catastrophic failure. The scientific team walked in stunned silence, dreams of accessing the galaxy's knowledge shattered. Rice caught Rivera looking at her questioningly. "What do we do now, Commander?" Rice's eyes hardened. "We prepare. They should have either destroyed us completely or welcomed us as equals. Exile will only make us stronger." On the journey home, while the diplomats drafted their grim report, Rice called a private meeting with the military and scientific personnel aboard. In a small conference room with communication systems disabled, she laid out her vision. "The assembly sees us as dangerous animals to be caged," she told them, "but they've made a critical error. They're leaving us alone to develop, merely placing a fence around our territory." Dr. Ishikawa frowned. "A fence patrolled by ships thousands of years ahead of our technology." "For now," Rice nodded, "but they've shown us what's possible. They've revealed the existence of faster-than-light travel, advanced energy sources, and materials we've never imagined. More importantly, they've shown us that most species out there evolved through cooperation, not competition, making them vulnerable to those who didn't," Lieutenant Rivera said slowly, understanding dawning. Ray's lips curved in a slight smile. "We won't breach their quarantine, not directly. But they've given us something precious, a common enemy for all humanity. With this exile, Earth will unite as never before. We'll develop in secret, reverse engineer what we can, and prepare. One day, we'll either convince them to accept us, or we'll make our own alliances," Dr. Ishikawa finished. "There must be other species who disagree with the assembly." "Precisely," Rice said. "Our exile begins today. Our planning for what comes after starts now." As Earth came into view through the viewport, blue, beautiful, and now effectively imprisoned, Commander Rice made a silent promise to her homeworld. The Grand Assembly had judged humanity too dangerous to join their community. In time, they would discover just how right they were. The news of Earth's quarantine shocked humanity, but rather than dividing the planet, it unified it as never before. Old national rivalries fell away as governments and corporations redirected resources toward a single goal: breaking the chains of their cosmic prison. Project Phoenix was born, humanity's greatest scientific initiative. Led by the newly promoted Admiral Rice, the project operated under absolute secrecy. 5 years of intensive research yielded minimal progress until Dr. Ishikawa made the crucial breakthrough: a method to detect the Assembly's quarantine monitoring system by analyzing quantum fluctuations at the boundary. "They're not watching continuously," Ishikawa explained to the Phoenix Leadership Council. "The monitoring system uses energy patterns that ripple through subspace. There are gaps, microseconds where the field weakens as the pattern resets." Admiral Rice leaned forward. "Can we exploit these gaps?" "Not yet for ships, but for data and very small objects, yes." Ishikawa smiled. "And I found something else. Their monitoring technology relies on detecting known propulsion signatures. If we could develop something entirely different." 10 years after Earth's quarantine, Project Phoenix launched Operation Stardust. thousands of microscopic stealth probes disguised as natural space debris, timed to drift through the boundary gaps. Most were destroyed, but enough made it through to begin gathering intelligence on assembly technology. The real breakthrough came 15 years into the project when Dr. Ishikawa's team, working with captured assembly tech, developed the quantum fold drive, a propulsion system unlike anything in the assembly's database. It doesn't push against space like conventional drives, Ishikawa explained during the first test demonstration. It temporarily folds spacetime using principles the assembly species never explored because their cooperative evolution led them along different technological paths. Admiral Rice watched as the unmanned test vessel disappeared from the lunar test range and reappeared beyond Pluto's orbit, the first human-made object to bypass the quarantine boundary. "How soon until we can put a crewed ship through?" she asked. 6 months for a prototype. Perhaps a year before we can launch our first explorer vessel. Reyes nodded. "You'll have whatever resources you need. This changes everything." And it did. Within 18 months, Earth launched its first interstellar ship, the ESV Prometheus, built in secret beneath the lunar surface. It carried a crew of 30 and slipped past the assembly's quarantine using a combination of stealth technology and the new quantum fold drive. Admiral Rice, despite nearing 60, commanded the mission personally. They traveled to a resource-rich system 20 light-years from Earth, well outside regular assembly patrol routes, but still close enough for emergency return. "This is where we begin," Rice announced as they established humanity's first extraterrestrial colony, a mining and manufacturing base hidden within an asteroid belt. Operation Exodus is now active. As Dr. Ishikawa refined the quantum fold drive, Admiral Rice oversaw the establishment of 4 more colonies, each carefully hidden and self-sufficient. Earth's industrial capacity doubled, then tripled, as resources flowed back through the secret pipeline. Meanwhile, more advanced stealth probes mapped safe routes through assembly space, identifying potential worlds far from prying eyes. 20 years after the first successful test, Admiral Rice, now nearly 80 but still commanding respect bordering on reverence, stood before Earth's unified council in their underground chamber. Behind her, a massive display showed real-time feeds from 12 human colonies spread across 40 light-years of space. "Phase 2 begins today," she announced, her voice still strong despite her years. "We've established our network. We've refined our technology. Now we expand our reach." The display changed to show a new class of ship, larger and more sophisticated than the early vessels. The Shadow-class cruisers are equipped with third-generation quantum fold drives. They can travel further, faster, and with no detectable signature. As Reyes outlined the next phase, establishing contact with other non-assembly species, creating trade networks, and building alliances with civilizations who might share humanity's frustration with the assembly's dominance, the council listened in awed silence. "We don't need their approval," Reyes concluded, gesturing toward the stars above. "Today we expand silently. Tomorrow we build strength, and one day we'll be too powerful to ignore." The assembly thought they were containing a threat. Instead, they forced us to become exactly what they feared. As the meeting ended, Dr. Ishikawa, now in his 70s, waited for Reyes in the antechamber. "I sometimes wonder," he said quietly, "if we're proving the assembly right about human nature." Reyes considered this. Perhaps, but they gave us no choice. Containment is a death sentence for a species like ours. We need to grow, to explore, to reach outward. From the observation deck, they watched as the newest shadow cruiser rose silently from its underground hangar, its hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Within moments, it disappeared into the night sky, bound for a star system where assembly sensors would never detect it. "They thought 20 years would break us," Reyes said, watching the ship vanish. "Instead, it made us more determined than ever. The shadow network grows stronger every day." She smiled faintly. "And the assembly has no idea what's coming." The Reckoning. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the ESV Defiant, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the Terathi homeworld. It was a beautiful planet, swirling purple oceans, sprawling orange continents, and white polar caps. Sensors indicated a thriving pre-industrial civilization concentrated on the larger landmasses. The Terathi themselves resembled tall, slender humanoids with iridescent skin that shifted colors with their emotions. "Magnify Sector 4, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the tension filling the bridge. The display zoomed in on a massive ship approaching the planet, nearly 5 times the size of the Defiant. Its distinctive angular design marked it as Vespari, one of the Assembly's founding species. "Scan complete, Captain," reported her science officer. "The Harvester vessel is a Class 3 resource extractor. They're deploying atmospheric processors. Based on previous patterns, they intend to begin terraforming operations to optimize mineral extraction." Chen's jaw tightened, and the Terathi. Their civilization would not survive the process. The atmospheric changes alone would kill most of their population within weeks. 50 years had passed since Earth's exile. Admiral Rice's vision had become reality. Humanity had established 22 thriving colonies, built a fleet of advanced starships, and created a shadow economy that operated beyond assembly detection. The Defiant was part of Earth's newest exploration initiative, charting systems far from established assembly routes. Finding the Terathi had been accidental. The Defiant detected their radio signals while passing through the system. Chen had ordered her ship to remain hidden while they studied the developing civilization. The Terathi had just discovered electricity and were experiencing their own industrial revolution. In perhaps another century, they might have reached space themselves. Then the Harvester arrived. "The Harvester is deploying mineral scanners," reported the tactical officer. "They've begun atmospheric sampling. No indication they've detected our presence." Chen faced a decision no Earth captain had encountered before. The standing order for all human ships was to avoid contact with assembly species. Humanity's growing empire remained hidden precisely because they stayed in the shadows. Interfering would expose their presence, perhaps even reveal how extensively humans had violated the quarantine. Yet the alternative was to watch an entire civilization die. "Signal the Phantom and the Spectre," Chen ordered, referring to the 2 smaller escort ships accompanying the Defiant. "Formation Delta. Arm defensive systems, but keep weapons cold." Her communications officer looked up in surprise. "Captain, are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting nothing," Chen interrupted. "I'm giving an order. Open a channel to the Harvester vessel." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances but complied. Chen straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. "Bring us out of stealth. Position between the Harvester ship and the planet." The Defiant's stealth field disengaged, the ship becoming visible as it accelerated toward the massive Vesperi extractor. The 2 escort ships followed, taking flanking positions. Together, the 3 human vessels formed a barrier between the Harvester and the Terathi world. "Channel open," announced the communications officer. Chen stepped forward. "This is Captain Chen of the Earth Starship Defiant. The Terathi civilization is under our protection. Withdraw your terraforming equipment and leave this system immediately." For several long moments, there was no response. Then the main screen flickered to show the Vesperi commander, a tall insectoid being with multiple compound eyes and gleaming mandibles. Unidentified vessels. The Harvester's translation device converted its clicks and whistles to standard language. "You are interfering with an assembly-authorized resource acquisition. This system has been properly registered for development. Remove your ships, or you will be destroyed." The alien's compound eyes shifted, clearly trying to identify the unknown ships. Human vessels bore no resemblance to their original Earth designs after 50 years of development. "I repeat," Chen responded calmly, "this planet contains a developing sentient species. We will not permit their destruction." The Vesperi commander's mandibles clicked rapidly, and what Chen's cultural officer whispered was a sign of agitation. "Humans," the Harvester finally stated, its translator unable to hide the shock in its voice. "You are quarantined to your home system by assembly decree. Your presence here is illegal. Your interference is illegal. Identify yourselves for judgment." Chen smiled thinly. "We stopped recognizing assembly authority over human activities long ago. The Terathi will be given the chance to develop naturally, without interference. This is not a request. It is a statement of fact." The Vesperi commander's body language shifted to something Chen recognized from briefings. "A combat stance. You have no standing here. The assembly determined your species unfit for interstellar society. This will be reported as further evidence of human aggression." The alien turned to someone off-screen. "Target the lead vessel. Full power." Chen nodded to her tactical officer. "Shields up. Evasive pattern Sigma." The Defiant shuddered as the harvester ship fired a powerful energy beam. The human vessel's shields flared but held steady. "Shields at 92%, reported the tactical officer. "Minor systems fluctuation on deck 4. Chen had hoped to resolve this peacefully, but she had come prepared for the alternative. "Return fire. Disable their weapons and propulsion only." The Defiant's advanced targeting systems locked onto key points of the harvester vessel. Precisely calibrated energy pulses struck the larger ship's weapon emplacements and engine nodes. The harvester ship immediately began to drift. "The Phantom reports Vesperi support vessels approaching from the moon's shadow," her first officer reported. "Engage as necessary," Chen ordered. "No casualties if it can be avoided." What followed was not truly a battle. It was a demonstration. The 3 human ships moved with precision and coordination that the Vesperi clearly hadn't expected. Within minutes, all 4 harvester vessels had been disabled, floating powerless but with life support intact. Chen opened the channel again. The Vesperi commander's posture now displayed what her cultural officer identified as shock and fear. "What are you?" the alien demanded. "We are what your assembly forced us to become," Chen answered simply. "Your ships will be provided enough emergency power to reach the nearest assembly outpost. You will take a message. The Terathi system is now under human protection, as are 11 other developing civilizations we have identified. Any attempt to interfere with these protected worlds will meet similar resistance." The alien's mandibles clicked rapidly. "The assembly will not tolerate this challenge." Chen leaned forward. "The assembly has no choice. For 50 years, you believed us safely contained. In that time, we have built an empire in the shadows of yours. We have 22 colony worlds, a fleet of ships with technology that matches or exceeds assembly standards, and alliances with other species who share our view of the assembly's shortcomings." This was partly a bluff. Earth's technology was advanced, but still not quite at assembly level in all areas. But the demonstration had made its point. "When your assembly exiled us," Chen continued, "they called us dangerously aggressive. Today you discovered why. That aggression exists to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Remember that when you deliver our message." Hours later, the harvester ships limped away from the system. Chen ordered long-range monitoring to ensure they didn't return, then established a small observation post in the system's outer asteroid belt to protect the Terathi. As the Defiant prepared to depart, Chen composed her report to Earth Command. This incident would change everything. Humanity's shadow empire could no longer remain completely hidden. The question was how the assembly would respond to discovering that their quarantine had failed so completely. "Set course for Outpost Horizon," Chen ordered. "Maximum speed." As the stars blurred around them, Chen watched the Terathi world recede on the view screen. For better or worse, humanity had just announced its return to galactic affairs. The assembly had tried to cage a species that refused to be contained. Now they would face the consequences of their mistake. "The exile ends today," Chen said quietly, "and a new chapter begins." The emergency session of the Grand Assembly stretched into its 3rd day. The Grand Chamber, usually organized and procedural, had descended into chaos. Representatives from hundreds of worlds shouted over each other, while the High Counselors struggled to maintain order. At the center of the storm was a simple report. Humans had been detected far beyond their quarantine boundary, operating advanced starships and interfering with assembly-sanctioned activities. "This is unprecedented," bellowed the Quarian counselor, all four arms gesturing wildly. The quarantine was absolute. How could they have developed hyperspace technology without detection? The Vesperi representative, still shaken from the encounter with Captain Chen's ships, projected images of the human vessels. "Their technology signatures are unlike anything in our databases. They've developed entirely new approaches to faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation. And their tactics," the insectoid alien's mandibles clicked nervously. "They disabled 4 of our ships in minutes with surgical precision." In the back of the chamber, a hooded figure observed silently, recording everything. The Novali were known for their information networks, and this particular agent had been tasked with gathering intelligence on the Assembly's response. The information would be worth a fortune to the right buyer. 7 days later, that same agent stood in a hidden facility on the edge of human space, facing Admiral Elisa Reyes. Despite being 130 years old now, Reyes's mind remained razor-sharp. Her body kept functional through advanced medical technology developed during humanity's exile. "So the Assembly is panicking," Reyes said with satisfaction after reviewing the intelligence. "Good. Fear makes them predictable. They're mobilizing survey fleets to locate your worlds," the Novali agent reported. "But your stealth technology seems effective. 3 search parties have already passed within a light year of your Proxima colony without detection." Reyes nodded, transferring payment to the agent. "Keep me informed of their movements, and extend my invitation to your speaker." After the agent departed, Reyes turned to her aide. "Prepare for the coalition session. It's time to bring our allies into the light." The expanded Earth Coalition convened in a massive underground chamber beneath the Olympus Mons on Mars. What had begun as humanity's governing body had grown to include representatives from 31 non-assembly species, civilizations that had been discovered by human exploration ships and offered alliances. The chamber buzzed with dozens of languages as delegates settled into their seats. Some were humanoid, but many were strikingly alien. The crystalline Alteri, the gaseous Mirai contained in specialized environment suits, the hive-minded Gestalt, who sent 5 bodies to represent their single consciousness. Admiral Reyes entered last, her slow, deliberate walk the only concession to her age. A respectful hush fell over the chamber as she approached the central platform. "Honored delegates," she began, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. 50 years ago, the Grand Assembly declared humanity too dangerous for interstellar society. They quarantined us to our home system, expecting us to wither and die in isolation. A thin smile crossed her lips. "Instead, we thrived in the shadows. We built colonies, developed technology, and most importantly, found friends among the stars." The delegates murmured in agreement. Many represented species who had their own grievances with the Assembly. Worlds denied membership for arbitrary reasons, civilizations exploited for resources, peoples deemed evolutionarily unsuitable, just as humans had been. "Captain Chen's defense of the Terethi has forced our hand," Reyes continued. "The Assembly now knows we are free. They know we have technology they thought beyond our reach, but they do not yet understand our true strength." She gestured to the assembled delegates. "They do not know about you, our allies. They do not know that together we have built something new. A coalition based on mutual respect rather than arbitrary hierarchies." The Alteri representative rose, crystal body gleaming. "The Assembly refused our petition for membership because our reproduction cycle was deemed inefficient for galactic integration. Humans offered technology exchange instead of exploitation. Why would we not ally with them?" Others shared similar stories. The Gestalt had been denied because their hive consciousness was considered potentially destabilizing. The Mirai had been exploited for the rare gases that composed their bodies. Each found in humanity not the dangerous aggressors the Assembly had described, but partners willing to trade, share, and protect. The time for hiding is over, Rise announced. Today, we present the Assembly with a choice: acknowledge the coalition of free species as equals, or face the consequences of a divided galaxy. From thousands of hidden bases, human and allied ships emerged, positioning themselves near key assembly installations, trade routes, and resource worlds. They took no hostile action, merely revealed their presence. Hundreds, then thousands of vessels the Assembly had never detected. In the Grand Assembly Chamber, now in its 10th day of emergency session, a human delegation entered for the first time in 50 years. Led not by diplomats this time, but by Admiral Rise herself. The chamber fell silent as the ancient military leader walked slowly to the central platform, facing the 7 high counselors. They had not changed. The assembly species were long-lived. These were the same individuals who had condemned humanity to isolation half a century earlier. 50,000 years, Rise said, her voice carrying clearly without amplification. That was your sentence for humanity. A quarantine until we evolve beyond our aggressive tendencies. She smiled, the expression razor-sharp. We did evolve, but not as you intended. We evolved by embracing the very traits you feared. Our drive, our determination, our refusal to accept imprisonment. The metallic Prime Counselor leaned forward. Your violation of the quarantine confirms our original assessment. Humans are a destabilizing influence. Perhaps, Rise acknowledged. But we are also a protective one. While your assembly harvests resources from worlds with developing civilizations, we shield them. While you reject species for arbitrary biological differences, we welcome them. We built a coalition of 31 species, all deemed unworthy by your standards. You threaten the stability of millennia, protested the Quarian counselor. No, Rise countered. We offer an alternative. The coalition of free species extends this proposal. Recognize our sovereignty, establish diplomatic relations, and respect the protected status of developing worlds we have identified. And if we refuse? Asked the Vesperi counselor, mandibles clicking. Rise's eyes hardened. Then we will continue to grow in strength and numbers. We will continue to protect those you would exploit. And eventually, the Assembly will find itself a diminishing power in a changing galaxy. She turned to address the entire chamber. 50 years ago, you made a critical error. You tried to contain something that could not be contained, the human spirit. Today, we offer you the chance to correct that mistake. The choice is yours. Evolve, or be left behind. As Admiral Rise and her delegation departed, the Grand Assembly erupted into debate once more. But this time, voices called for negotiation rather than confrontation. The balance of power had shifted. In orbit above the Assembly homeworld, the ESV Prometheus, now a museum ship, the first human vessel to break the quarantine, waited to carry the human delegation home. Standing on its observation deck, Admiral Rise looked down at the alien world, remembering the young commander she had been when this all began. Was it worth it? Asked Dr. Ishikawa, now her oldest friend and advisor. Rise considered the question, thinking of the colonies they had built, the species they had saved, the coalition they had formed. They tried to cage us, thinking isolation would break us. Instead, it forged us into something stronger, something that could challenge an entire galaxy. She smiled, watching the stars. Yes, old friend, it was worth it. The Assembly had feared human aggression. Instead, they had created human determination and unleashed it upon the stars.